Chapter 1. Unseen and Unwanted. The dining hall of Silvercrest Pack always smelled like roasted meat, fresh bread, and cruelty. At least, that's how it felt to Rose. She moved quietly between tables, balancing a heavy tray of breakfast plates against her hip, her shoulders curled in, as if making herself small could somehow make her invisible. It never worked. Eyes always found her to judge her, to laugh, to remind her she did not belong. "Rose!" Hazel's sharp voice sliced through the room. Rose flinched. Hazel's voice always carried authority not because she earned it, but because she was Alpha Magnus's precious daughter, thin, perfect, and vicious. Rose turned toward her stepsister. "Yes?" Hazel lounged in a chair like a queen on a throne, legs crossed, blonde hair cascading perfectly down her back. All around her sat their pack's elite warriors, high-rank wolves, the ones who already saw Hazel as lunar material. Hazel's lips curled into a smirk. "You're standing like a sloth. Move faster, the warriors are hungry." Rose swallowed. "Yes, Hazel." She lowered her gaze and hurried toward the kitchen window. Behind her, laughter rippled not just at Hazel's insult, but at how naturally Rose accepted it. She always accepted it. Being an Omega meant obedience. Being her meant humiliation. Rose set down a plate for Beta Rowan. His nose wrinkled as if she were something dirty. "You breathe too loud, Omega," he muttered under his breath. "It's annoying." She whispered, "Sorry." He ignored her completely. Rose wasn't just the Omega of the pack, she was the outcast. 18. Overweight, no awakened wolf. When every other wolf in the pack shifted at 16, Rose remained nothing. "Such a late bloomer," Hazel had once said with a fake pout. Or maybe the moon goddess forgot about her. Rose didn't argue. Perhaps the goddess really had forgotten. She steadied herself and lifted the next tray. The metal edge dug painfully into her palms, but she didn't dare rest. Her heart pounded like a frantic drum. She could already picture it dropping the dishes, the shattering crash, the laughter. Not again. Not today. She inhaled slowly, repeating the same mantra she recited every morning. Just survive. Her wolf, silent somewhere inside her, never answered. Instead, a hollow ache filled her chest where a wolf's presence should be. Other girls her age knew their strength. Rose only knew her fear. And yet, sometimes, at night, she dreamed of her mate. A faceless figure with strong arms wrapping around her. A deep voice whispering, "Mine." Someone who would look at her and not see a burden. Not see a servant. Someone who would choose her. That dream kept her breathing. "Watch it." Hazel's voice came too late. Rose felt a foot hook around her ankle. She stumbled forward. The tray tilted. Time slowed. Dishes slipped, crashing to the floor, splattering gravy and mashed potatoes across the polished wood floor. Gasps erupted, then laughter. Loud, mocking, merciless. Hazel looked down at Rose with feigned shock. "Oh no, Rose," she cooed loudly so the entire hall could hear. "Clumsy again? Maybe if you spent less time eating leftovers and more time exercising." Laughter exploded. Rose dropped to her knees, scooping food with trembling hands, her palms burning from the hot oil. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them back. Crying would only fuel them. Hazel leaned in and whispered, voice dripping poison. "You don't belong here. We're wolves. You're just—" "Wait." Rose's throat tightened. Hazel straightened and announced louder, "Someone get a mop. The Omega is leaking emotions again." More laughter. Rose stayed on her knees, hands sticky with food, face burning with shame. Asterisk, asterisk, a voice whispered inside her, fragile but persistent. "One day, someone will see me. One day, someone will choose me. My mate will save me." She didn't fully believe it. But she needed to. The hall doors swung open. Gamma Nolan strode in, his expression serious, a rolled scroll in hand. The room quieted immediately. "All pack members," he called out. "I have news from the royal palace." Alpha Magnus stood, excitement brightening his eyes. Gamma Nolan unrolled the scroll. "The Crown Prince Alpha, Garvin of the North, will be visiting Silvercrest Pack." Whispers erupted. "He's coming here? Garvin? The undefeated Alpha? For the lunar ceremony, he will choose his mate." Hazel gasped, eyes lighting with greedy triumph. Rose froze on the floor, still kneeling among broken dishes and spilled food. A mate? A ceremony? The Crown Prince? Her breath caught. What if my mate is? No. Wolves like him choose perfection. Not her. But her heart whispered treason anyway. What if fate has other plans? Rose remained on her knees long after the crowd lost interest. The floor felt cold beneath her palms, and gravy clung to her skin, sticky and humiliating. The laughter still echoed inside her skull, even though the dining hall had already moved on. Conversations resumed. Plates clattered. Hazel flipped her hair and giggled with her friends as if ruining Rose's morning was nothing more than sport. Maybe that's all Rose was to them: entertainment. Something to break for amusement. She gathered the broken dishes into the tray. Her shoulders hunched. Her chest felt tight, like there wasn't enough air in the room. Just breathe. Don't cry. Don't let them see. Still scrubbing like a servant piglet? One warrior snickered as he walked by, his plate empty. Rose kept her head down. Ignoring hurt less than responding. In the far corner of the hall, the pack warriors who had yet to leave murmured excitedly around Gamma Nolan. "Prince Garvin is choosing a Luna," one whispered. "And he'll probably choose Hazel," another replied. "She's Alpha-born. Perfect." Rose swallowed hard. Hazel. Perfect. Hazel. Chosen. Hazel. Everything Rose was not. Beta Rowan leaned back in his chair, voice arrogant. "I heard Prince Garvin hates weak wolves. He dismisses any she-wolf who can't shift." Rose froze mid-movement. "Seriously?" a warrior asked. Rowan nodded. "He wants a Luna with strength, a wolf worthy of the throne. He refuses to mate someone. Defective." Laughter. Rose's throat closed. Their words sank into her like sharp claws. Defective. That must be what they believed she was. Useless, wolfless, unwanted. Gamma Nolan cleared his throat loudly. "Listen up. The prince arrives tomorrow evening. The lunar ball will be held the same night. The moment he steps into the hall, he will sense his fated mate." Hazel's friends squealed. Rose felt her heart crack. He will sense her instantly. Like every other wolf sensed their mate, except Rose, because she didn't even have a wolf yet. Hazel pushed through the group toward Rowan. "You think he'll choose me?" Rowan smirked. "A prince wants power, beauty, noble blood." He gestured at her with a flourish. "You were practically born for this." Hazel twirled a strand of hair. "Maybe I'll be Luna of the entire kingdom." Her eyes flicked toward Rose, a wicked spark. Or maybe Rose was imagining it. Hazel leaned close enough for Rose to hear and said, loud enough for the warriors nearby, "It's sad, really. Some girls were born to rule, and some were just born to serve." Rose looked down again, but Hazel wasn't finished. "I mean," Hazel continued, tone dripping mock sympathy, "even if Rose had a wolf, who would the moon goddess pair her with? A rogue goat?" Warriors roared with laughter. Rose kept wiping, even though the floor was spotless now. Hazel's voice sharpened. "And tomorrow, when Prince Garvin walks in and finds his mate, just try not to get in the way. He might mistake your reflection for a shadow." Rose set down the tray, her hands trembling. She didn't respond. She didn't have the strength. On autopilot, she carried the broken dishes back to the kitchen. Once she crossed the threshold, the noise of the dining hall disappeared behind her. The quiet felt like a breath of mercy. She set the tray on the counter, leaned her back against the wall, and slid down until she was sitting on the cold tile floor. Finally, away from the eyes that watched. Away from the mouths that mocked. Away from Hazel. Her breathing wavered. I don't belong here. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the emptiness where her wolf should be. Moon goddess, why did you give everyone a destiny except me? Silence. Always silence. Her eyelids fell shut, and in that darkness, she returned to the whispers of her dreams, arms around her waist, a deep voice calling her mine. She wanted to believe someone, somewhere, was made for her. Someone strong enough to shield her from this world. Someone who would look at her the way she had always wished someone would. What if my mate is out there? What if fate really sees me? Her heart fluttered with a small, rebellious spark of hope. She didn't know that miles away, in a moving black SUV cutting through the forest, a powerful alpha paused mid-conversation. Prince Garvin's nostrils flared, sensing something in the air. Your Highness? His beater asked. Garvin frowned, gripping the leather seat beside him, brows furrowing. I felt something, he murmured, voice low, rough. A scent, faint, but he inhaled again. Warm, sweet, painfully familiar. His wolf growled with sudden, savage hunger. Mate. Chapter 2. Hazel's Perfect Lunar Plan. The morning of the lunar ceremony arrived like a sentence. Rose woke up to Hazel's shrill voice screeching down the pack house hallway. Rose! Get in here! Now! Rose blinked awake on her tiny mattress in the attic, barely big enough for her to stretch her legs. Dust floated in the air like little ghosts. She rubbed her eyes, slid her feet into worn shoes, and hurried downstairs. Hazel's room was the exact opposite, luxurious, spacious, dripping with satin and gold. Dresses hung everywhere, shimmering under the vanity lights. Makeup scattered across the bed. Perfume bottles crowded the dresser. Hazel stood in front of the mirror, wrapped in a silk robe, analyzing herself like a masterpiece. Without turning, she snapped, You're late. Rose checked the clock. It wasn't even 6 a.m. I came as soon as I... Don't speak, Hazel cut in sharply. Just help. Rose swallowed her reply. Stay invisible, stay quiet. Hazel gestured to the gowns laid out like trophies. One dress glittered silver, another deep emerald. All expensive, all perfect for the future Luna. Hazel's voice filled the silence. Prince Garvin arrives tonight. Do you know what that means? Rose didn't answer. She knew Hazel wanted her to ask, but curiosity only ever got her punished. Hazel turned, smirking at the hesitation. It means I become Luna. I become royalty. I become everything you will never be. She held up a dress, pressing it against her body. Which one makes me look more powerful? Rose hesitated, then pointed at the emerald gown. Hazel made a face. Wrong. The silver shows off my shoulders better. You truly have no taste. Rose bit the inside of her cheek. Hazel snapped her fingers. Steam it! And don't burn it this time. I didn't burn it. Hazel's eyes narrowed. I said, Don't. Speak. Rose nodded and took the gown, her hands trembling. As Rose worked, Hazel prattled on to her reflection. Prince Garvin has standards. He wants strength, elegance, beauty. She smoothed her hair. Everything I am. Rose swallowed the lump in her throat. Hazel turned to her suddenly. Do you know what he'll do to weak girls during the ceremony? Rose looked up, confused. Hazel stepped closer, lowering her voice to a cruel whisper. He rejects them, publicly, right in front of everyone. Rose froze. Hazel smiled, satisfied with the reaction. One sniff, and he'll know exactly who deserves him. Rose focused on the gown, trying not to break. She's wrong. She has to be wrong. The goddess wouldn't do that to someone. But in the back of her mind, a darker voice whispered, wouldn't she? Later, as Rose carried laundry toward the back room, she overheard voices from around the corner. Two pack girls spoke in hushed, excited tones. I heard Prince Garvin can smell a weak mate before she ever gets close. Oh my goddess, the other giggled. Imagine if the Alpha Prince rejected his mate in front of everyone, especially someone like Rose. They snickered. She would probably break. Rose felt the words crush her chest. Alpha Magnus caught her in the hallway. He looked at her the way someone might look at dirt on their shoe. You're dripping water on the floor. His lip curled. Every day you exist is a mess. I'm sorry, Alpha, she whispered. He stepped closer, towering over her. Do better. Hazel is everything a Luna should be. You are nothing but a reminder that your father mated the wrong woman. Rose kept her eyes down. Yes, Alpha. He walked off without another glance. By afternoon, Hazel was in full transformation mode. Stylists had arrived, makeup artists, even a posture coach. Hazel stood tall, chin up, reciting lines like she was auditioning for a crown. I will be Luna. I will represent power. I will not giggle, and I will not slouch. Rose handed her jewelry box. Hazel didn't say thank you. She never did. When evening crept in, Hazel stood in front of the mirror, wearing the silver gown, jewels sparkling on her neck. She looked breathtaking. Rose stood behind her holding a lipstick. Hazel met her eyes in the mirror and smiled. Not warmly. Predatory. You know, Rose, when I become Luna, I'll make sure you stay where you belong. Rose's voice was barely a whisper. Where is that? Hazel leaned forward and whispered into her ear. Right beneath my heel. And, somewhere on the highway leading toward them, Prince Garvin's wolf was restless, sniffing the air, searching for a scent he couldn't name. Hazel strutted down the stairs like the whole pack house was her personal stage. Rose followed behind, head down, carrying Hazel's heels and clutch. Every step echoed loudly, Hazel's confidence shaking the air, Rose's presence swallowed by it. Pack members gathered in the main hall, watching Hazel with admiration and envy. Oh my goddess, look at her dress. She looks like a Luna already. Hazel drank in the compliments like champagne. Alpha Magnus stood at the base of the stairs, dressed in a formal black suit. His chest puffed with pride as Hazel reached him. My daughter, he said loudly, smiling for the audience. Our future, Luna. Rose reached the bottom step seconds later. Magnus's smile dropped. You're wrinkling the hem, he hissed. Do you ever do anything right? Rose lowered her head. I'm sorry, Alpha. Magnus didn't bother responding. Hazel laughed under her breath. Across the room, a group of she-wolves whispered loudly enough for Rose to hear. She's so round. Do we even let Omegas near royalty? What if Prince Garvin sees her and loses his appetite? Laughter. Rose tightened her grip on Hazel's clutch. Her fingers dug into the sequined fabric. Just breathe, endure, survive. She had learned long ago crying only made them crueler. Hazel suddenly spun toward Rose. You're sweating. Rose froze. No one wants their maid smelling like fear, Hazel said with a dramatic shudder. Hazel reached into the clutch, pulled out a small perfume bottle, and sprayed it directly at Rose's neck, not gently, not kindly. Rose coughed as the scent burned her throat. Hazel smiled sweetly. There, at least now you smell like something other than desperation. The pack laughed. Alpha Magnus chuckled. Rose stood silent and still, letting them laugh. Because fighting only made it worse. The pack cheered when the two beta guards rushed into the hall, breathless. Alpha Magnus! One called out. The future Crown Alpha has crossed our border. Hazel squealed and grabbed her father's arm. He's here! He's here! The whole room buzzed with excitement. Rose stood frozen. The front doors of the pack house opened wide, wind swirling in, carrying the scent of pine, winter frost, and dominance strong enough to command silence. Boots approached. Power entered the room before his body did. Prince Garvin stepped into the hall tall, broad shoulders, dark hair glowing under the lights, a presence that made the room bow without being asked. Rose didn't look up. Not at first. But Garvin paused mid-step. His nostrils flared. His eyes, a deep, stormy silver, scanned the room. Searching. Why does the air feel so different? Rose felt something squeeze her chest. A pressure. A pull. Hazel stepped forward, hips swaying, voice sweetened. Welcome, Prince Garvin. I'm Hazel. Future. Garvin didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked somewhere else. On someone else. Hazel blinked, frustrated. Garvin inhaled again, deeper this time. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, hunger, curiosity. The hall held its breath. Rose lifted her eyes. Just once. Garvin's gaze snapped to her like a magnet finding its true north. Rose. The Omega nobody saw. And everything inside him stilled. Hazel noticed. Her smile cracked. She stepped into Garvin's line of sight, desperate to block it. Prince Garvin, she purred. Allow me to show you. Garvin barely moved, yet his voice sliced through the air, deep and commanding. Move. Hazel flinched. Rose's heart slammed against her ribs. He was looking at her. But he didn't understand why. His wolf growled inside him, possessive, impatient. Garvin's jaw tightened, and he inhaled once more. Mate. The word burned through him like fire. But he didn't say it aloud. Not yet. Not here. Hazel's expression twisted when she noticed Rose's trembling hands. She leaned close to Rose, her whisper dripping venom. You think a prince would ever want you? Garvin's eyes sharpened. He heard every word. Rose swallowed her tears. Hazel's voice turned sugary again as she faced Garvin. You must be exhausted from your trip. Let me escort you to your room. Garvin stepped past her without touching her, without acknowledging her, and walked straight toward Rose. Every pack member stared. Rose panicked, stepping backward, clutch trembling in her shaking hands. He stopped right in front of her. Close. Too close. Rose, Garvin said quietly. Her breath left her body. He knew her name. Without introduction. Without hesitation. And her world stopped. Chapter 3. The hall was silent. Rose stood frozen, clutch still trembling in her hands. Garvin was tall enough to cast a shadow over her. His presence was overwhelming, like a storm that had entered the room and refused to leave. His voice, low and rough, brushed over her skin. Rose. He said her name like he had tasted it before, like it belonged to him. Rose blinked rapidly. Words? She needed words. You know my name? Garvin studied her, not her dress, not her flaws. Her. His silver eyes were sharp, searching, hungry. Something inside Rose fluttered to life, a strange warmth unfurling in her chest. But Hazel wasn't having it. She pushed herself between them, grabbing Garvin's forearm with practiced delicacy. Prince Garvin, dinner awaits. Why waste time with that? Rose flinched. Garvin's reaction was instant. He removed Hazel's hand with 2 fingers, not harsh, but with a silent authority that made Hazel pale. "I'll decide where I spend my time." Alpha Magnus hurried forward, trying to save the moment. "Prince Garvin, Hazel has been preparing for your arrival." "I don't care." The entire hall sucked in a breath. Rose's own heart stuttered. No one had ever defended her. Not once. Not like that. Hazel forced a laugh, brittle and tight. "Oh, Prince Garvin, you must be tired. Let's get you settled." Garvin spoke again, voice controlled, but there was a crack of something darker in it. "I need air." He didn't wait for permission. He didn't offer explanation. He simply turned and left the hall. Hazel stood frozen, her face a perfect mask of wounded pride. Her eyes slid toward Rose, sharp and deadly. "This is your fault." "No, I didn't." "Shut up," Hazel hissed, stepping closer. "You will not ruin this for me." Her nails dug into Rose's arm as she leaned in, breath hot and venomous. "You don't belong in the same room as him." Then, with a shove, Hazel sent Rose stumbling backward. Rose caught herself, cheeks burning. People whispered. Pathetic. Clumsy. Unworthy. Their voices scraped against her skin like thorns. I shouldn't exist here. I shouldn't be seen. Meanwhile, outside, on the terrace overlooking the courtyard, Garvin gripped the railing hard enough to crack the stone. His wolf was pacing. "Mate." Garvin inhaled sharply. No, not now, not her. He could still smell her warm cinnamon and rain-soaked pine. He could still feel her eyes on him. His wolf snarled. "Claim her." Garvin squeezed his eyes shut, fighting the instinct. His life was built on discipline, hierarchy, control. A mate meant vulnerability, distraction, weakness. He wasn't here to fall in love. He was here to take a Luna and secure alliances. A chosen Luna. Not fate's. The door behind him opened. Beta Damien stepped out. Garvin's closest friend, his second in command. "You walked out on your own lunar ceremony dinner," Damien said lightly. "That's one hell of a statement." Garvin's jaw flexed. "She's not my Luna." Damien raised a brow. "You recognize the bond." Garvin growled under his breath. "She's an Omega in a pack that treats her like dirt." Damien leaned against the wall. And I won't be mated to someone weak." Damien's tone shifted calm, razor sharp. "Or are you afraid that someone broken can break you too?" Garvin looked away, but didn't deny it. The truth was ugly. He didn't want vulnerability tugging at him every time she breathed. He didn't want to care. Back inside, Rose escaped to the kitchen, exhaling a shaky breath as she leaned against a counter. Her heart still raced. Her chest still felt full of something she didn't have a name for. Why did he look at me like that? Like I mattered? She touched her chest where warmth still lingered. For the first time, her wolf stirred faintly inside her like the first flutter of a wing. But Hazel barged in, slamming the door. "Get out," Hazel hissed. "I don't want you anywhere near him when he comes back." Rose swallowed. "I didn't do anything." "You exist," Hazel snapped, stepping closer, eyes full of murderous jealousy. "And that is already too much." She leaned in, voice low and threatening. "Stay invisible, or I will make sure you regret it." Hazel grabbed a bowl from the counter and shoved it into Rose's hands. "Clean up the hall, alone." Rose turned toward the sink, breathing through the sting behind her eyes. Why is fate so cruel? Why let me feel something I can't ever have? Little did she know. Garvin wasn't done with her. He was still outside, fists pressed against the cold railing, fighting the instinct that pulled him toward her. His wolf snarled inside him. "Mate! Mate! Mate, Garvin whispered to the night. I won't accept her. But his voice lacked conviction. Garvin finally pushed off the railing, trying to shake off the feeling of being pulled by something invisible. By someone. He forced himself back inside. The corridors were quieter now. Guests had returned to their rooms, leaving only distant murmurs and scattered footsteps. Still, his wolf strained, searching, tugging. Find her. Garvin clenched his teeth and ignored it. He turned a corner and stopped. Rose was on her knees. Hazel had dumped a tray of dirty dishes across the marble floor. Rose was picking them up one by one, hands trembling, sleeves wet, hair falling into her face. Not crying, just quiet. Like she had learned long ago that tears don't earn mercy. Garvin was hidden in the shadow of the hallway, unseen, watching. Hazel stood over her, arms folded, smiling sweetly with venom behind her eyes. You missed a spot. No, not that way. Don't you know anything? Oh, wait. Omegas don't know things. Rose forced a whisper. I'm trying. Try harder. Hazel nudged Rose's hand with her heel, deliberately stepping on Rose's fingers. Rose flinched but didn't pull away. Didn't fight back. Didn't defend herself. Pain flashed in her eyes, but she kept cleaning. Garvin felt it in his chest. A sharp, unfamiliar ache. Damien appeared at his side quietly. You're not going to stop that? Garvin's jaw tightened. I shouldn't get involved. Shouldn't, Damien repeated, unimpressed. Or won't. Garvin remained stone still. Because if he stepped in, if he acknowledged that bond even for a second, everything would unravel. Everything he had planned. Everything he had built. Hazel knelt, voice dripping false pity. Tell me, Rose, do you ever get tired of being worthless? Rose froze. For the first time, anger sparked behind her eyes. It trembled in her voice, fragile but present. I'm not worthless. Hazel leaned in, lips brushing Rose's ear. No one here wants you, not even fate. Rose's breath hitched. Garvin moved. He didn't think, he acted. His voice cut through the hallway like a blade. Enough. Hazel spun around, her face draining of color when she saw him standing there. Prince Garvin. Watching everything. Your Highness, I didn't realize. You didn't care, he replied coldly. Hazel straightened, quickly twisting her expression into innocence. I was only giving her instructions. Stepping on her hand is not an instruction. Hazel swallowed. Garvin walked past her and knelt, in front of Rose. Rose's breath caught. No one had ever knelt for her. Not once. He wiped a bit of sauce from her wrist with his thumb, slow and deliberate. Her skin warmed where he touched her. You shouldn't be on the floor. His voice was low, intimate, dangerous. Rose shook her head. I don't have a choice. His eyes darkened. You always have a choice. Hazel's voice cracked. Prince Garvin, I am the one being considered for Luna, not her. Garvin's gaze slid to Hazel, cold and final. I make my own decisions. Hazel stiffened, fury trembling under her skin. Damien stepped forward. Prince, Alpha Magnus wants to discuss tomorrow's ceremony. Without breaking eye contact with Hazel, Garvin said, There may not be a ceremony. Hazel went still. Rose's breath caught in her throat. What did that mean? Garvin stood, and for one impossible moment, his fingers brushed Rose's barely a touch, but it felt like lightning. He lowered his head, voice for her alone. Don't let anyone dim what's yours. Then he left. Hazel waited until he was gone before she spun toward Rose, claws out in her eyes. What did you do to him? Rose hugged herself, voice fragile. I didn't do anything, Hazel's snarl was quiet and lethal. "You will stay away from him, do you understand me?" Rose didn't answer. Hazel leaned in closer, whispering, every word wrapped in poison. "If Garvin looks at you again, I will destroy you." Hazel stormed off, heels echoing down the hallway. Rose remained kneeling on the floor, bowl in hand, breathing shakily. But something inside her had shifted. Not confidence. Not strength. Something smaller. A spark. She stood slowly, shakily, and placed the bowl on the counter. For the first time in her life, someone saw her. Really saw her. And for the first time, she allowed herself to whisper a truth she had never dared think. Maybe I deserve more. Outside, Garvin walked away before he did something reckless. Like turn around and claim her. Chapter 4. The moon pavilion glittered with silver lanterns and flowing white drapes. Every elite wolf family from neighboring packs filled the hall. Nobles, warriors, and elders in expensive ceremonial tunics. The scent of polished wood, wildflowers, and ego hung thick in the air. Rose stood at the back, hands clasped behind her, wearing the same plain brown servant dress she'd worn for years. Her wrists still stung from where Beta had shoved a tray into her hands earlier. Serve, don't be seen. The usual reminder. On the elevated stage, Alpha Magnus cleared his throat. He stood proudly beside Hazel, who shimmered in an emerald gown that hugged every curve. Her golden hair was styled in ringlets, and her lips were painted a deep, seductive red. Hazel looked like the Luna everyone wanted. Rose carried a tray of crystal goblets filled with sparkling wine. She balanced it carefully, aware eyes were everywhere. Whispers rippled across the crowd, not even trying to be discreet. Hazel will be Luna. It's obvious. Alpha Garvin will realize she's the perfect match. That servant girl should be kept outside, she ruins the view. Rose's throat tightened, but her face remained blank. Years of hiding emotion had made her unreadable. Hazel stepped forward, smiling sweetly manufactured innocence. "Welcome, honored Pax," Alpha Magnus announced, voice booming. "We gather tonight to honor the visiting royal Prince Garvin, and to present our most promising she-wolf." He gestured to Hazel like he was presenting a trophy. Hazel curtsied dramatically, her voice dripping with fake humility. "It is my honor to stand here, before our future Alpha King." The hall erupted in applause. Rose moved silently through the crowd, offering drinks. She kept her gaze on her feet, not the stage. The sting of humiliation burned inside her chest. Garvin wasn't on stage yet, but the anticipation was suffocating. Every she-wolf had dressed to impress him. Everyone except Rose. Someone intentionally bumped her arm. Hazel's cousin smirked as Rose steadied the tray. "Careful, servant. Don't ruin Hazel's big moment." Rose bit her tongue. She couldn't afford punishment tonight, not with so many eyes watching. Alpha continued, "Hazel has been chosen as our nominee for the Lunar Trials." The crowd cheered wildly. Rose swallowed the ache in her throat. Why are they so sure? Why do they speak as if her destiny is already sealed? She positioned herself near a column, offering drinks to passing warriors. Her eyes drifted to the silver ceremonial crown resting on a velvet cushion. It sparkled under the lights, the symbol of a future Luna. Hazel edged closer to the cushion, savoring the attention. Rose forced herself to look away. She repeated the words she'd said to herself since childhood. "You don't belong. You never will." But a small, fragile voice inside her pushed back. "What if you do?" Before she could catch that sliver of hope, the air shifted, electrifying, tense. The palace doors opened. Every head turned. Prince Garvin entered. Prince Garvin stepped fully into the moon pavilion. Tall, commanding, Midnight dark hair tousled like he'd run his hands through it in frustration. His formal jacket black with silver embroidery hugged broad shoulders that radiated dominance without effort. Conversation died. Wolves straightened like soldiers before a king. But Garvin didn't look at Hazel. He didn't even acknowledge the stage. His nostrils flared sharp, controlled as if something in the air struck him. His voice dropped to a low rumble. That scent. He turned his head slowly. Rose froze mid-step, still holding her tray. Their eyes met. His irises were molten gold wolf taking over, pupils dilating as if she had just punched the air out of him. 1 heartbeat. 2. Rose forgot how to breathe. Hazel noticed instantly. Her perfect smile trembled, eyes widening with disbelief. No, not her, not the servant. Hazel stepped off the stage, heels clicking like a warning. She inserted herself between them, blocking Rose from Garvin's view. Your Highness, Hazel dropped into a curtsy. I am Hazel, daughter of Alpha Magnus, the one chosen to… Garvin didn't blink. He shifted his head to the side, looking around, Hazel's eyes locked back onto Rose. Rose swallowed hard, heat rushing to her cheeks. Hazel's irritation flared into fury. Why? Hazel hissed, voice tight with venom. Are you staring at her? Rose stepped back instinctively, gripping the tray like a shield. It's nothing, Rose whispered, voice shaking. I'm just serving. Hazel spun on her. Stop trying to get attention, you worthless. Garvin moved before the words finished leaving her mouth. 1 second, Hazel's hand was raised toward Rose. The next, Prince Garvin's fingers wrapped around Hazel's wrist, mid-air firm, controlled, dominant. Gasps rippled through the hall. His voice dropped to a deadly calm. Don't touch her. Hazel blinked, stunned. Why, Your Highness, I was just… bullying a pack member, he said flatly. He didn't release her wrist. Hazel glanced at the crowd, face flushing with humiliation. She's nothing but a servant. Garvin's wolf surfaced. His eyes glowed bright gold. Not to me. He released Hazel with a flick of his hand, like discarding something insignificant. Hazel stumbled. The room erupted into whispers. Rose's throat tightened, humiliation, shock, and fear mixing into a painful knot. Everyone was staring. Hazel pointed at Rose, rage spiraling into hysteria. She did something to you. She's trying to manipulate you. She's always trying to steal. Rose couldn't take it anymore. She put the tray down and backed away, heart pounding so hard she could hear her pulse in her ears. I didn't do anything, Rose whispered, voice breaking. Please, just stop. No one defended her. Not her father. Not the pack. Not anyone. Garvin took a step toward her, instinctive, protective, but Rose panicked. She turned and ran. Past the crowd. Past the stage. Past the doors. Out of the pavilion and into the night. Tears blurred everything. Behind her, she heard Hazel's voice rising in humiliation, and Garvin's low, furious growl, the sound of a prince barely controlling his wolf. But Rose didn't look back. She ran until the cold air burned her lungs. Because nothing hurt more than knowing. If the prince's attention only brings her more humiliation, then she'd rather stay invisible. Chapter 5. The night air was cold. Rose didn't feel it. She ran until her lungs burned, until the sounds of Hazel's laughter and the pack's whispers disappeared. She pressed her back against a wall outside the pack house, hugging herself. The tears refused to stop. She thought she could be invisible. She thought if she never spoke, never hoped, she wouldn't break. A twig snapped. Her breath hitched. Someone was there. Before she could move, a large hand pressed beside her head, caging her in without touching her. The scent hit her first, crisp pine and smoke, Her body reacted before her mind could form a thought. Garvin! He stood too close, tall, unyielding, dominant. The weight of his presence stole her breath. Rose swallowed. You shouldn't be here. Garvin leaned in, his voice a low growl that trembled through her bones. I can't stay away. His chest was inches from hers. She could feel the heat radiating off him, or maybe it was the bond pulsing between them, alive and hungry. Rose's fists curled at her sides. It hurts, she whispered. What hurts? He asked, voice rough, like he already knew. This feeling. She pressed a hand to her chest. Every time you look at me, I can't breathe. Garvin's eyes darkened, silver shifting to molten steel. He braced his other hand on the other side of her head, fully trapping her. Not touching, but claiming space. Your scent, he growled softly, as if confessing a crime. It hits me like a punch. Do you know what that means? Rose shook her head, barely able to think. He tilted her chin upward with a finger not rough, but firm enough that she met his gaze. I shouldn't want you. The words were harsh, but his touch was not. Rose whispered, voice trembling. If fate bound us, why does it hurt? Garvin inhaled sharply. His forehead nearly touched hers, not kissing, just close enough that her lips tingled with the idea of it. It hurts, he murmured, because I'm fighting it. His hand slowly slid down from the wall, brushing her arm in a barely there touch that sent a shiver through her. Her breath caught. Garvin leaned even closer until his lips hovered at her ear. You make me lose control. Rose's heart pounded. Is that bad? His chest rose and fell against hers, slow and heavy. For me? His voice dropped into a dangerous whisper. It could ruin everything. Her voice was barely a breath. Then don't fight it. For a single moment, a heartbeat suspended in time, she felt him lean into her. His nose skimmed her cheek, tracing the path her tears had left. Rose. His voice cracked. If I let myself touch you, I won't stop. The night swirled around them, charged and alive. Her pulse roared in her ears. I don't understand, she whispered. Why do you pull me close just to push me away? He shut his eyes, jaw flexing a man losing a war against instinct. Because fate doesn't control me. He pushed off the wall and stepped back, breaking the moment with violent restraint. Rose felt the loss like a physical wound. Garvin ran a hand through his hair, pacing once, twice, frustrated by something he couldn't fight. You don't know what you're asking for, he said, voice tight. You don't know what I am. Rose lifted her chin, just enough courage to ask, so show me. Those 3 words shattered him. His wolf surged against his control, mate. Claim. Take. Garvin's eyes flashed silver. He took one last step toward her, then froze. Not because he didn't want her, because wanting her terrified him. Chapter 5. The night air was cold. Rose didn't feel it. She ran until her lungs burned, until the sounds of Hazel's laughter and the pack's whispers disappeared. She pressed her back against a wall outside the pack house, hugging herself. The tears refused to stop. She thought she could be invisible. She thought if she never spoke, never hoped, she wouldn't break. A twig snapped. Her breath hitched. Someone was there. Before she could move, a large hand pressed beside her head, caging her in without touching her. The scent hit her first crisp pine and smoke. Her body reacted before her mind could form a thought. Garvin! He stood too close, tall, unyielding, dominant. The weight of his presence stole her breath. Rose swallowed. You shouldn't be here. Garvin leaned in, his voice a low growl that trembled through her bones. I can't stay away. His chest was inches from hers. She could feel the heat radiating off him, or maybe it was the bond pulsing between them, alive and hungry. Rose's fists curled at her sides. It hurts, she whispered. What hurts? He asked, voice rough, like he already knew. This feeling. She pressed a hand to her chest. Every time you look at me, I can't breathe. Garvin's eyes darkened, silver shifting to molten steel. He braced his other hand on the other side of her head, fully trapping her. Not touching, but claiming space. Your scent, he growled softly, as if confessing a crime. It hits me like a punch. Do you know what that means? Rose shook her head, barely able to think. He tilted her chin upward with a finger not rough, but firm enough that she met his gaze. I shouldn't want you. The words were harsh, but his touch was not. Rose whispered, voice trembling. If fate bound us, why does it hurt? Garvin inhaled sharply. His forehead nearly touched hers, not kissing, just close enough that her lips tingled with the idea of it. It hurts, he murmured, because I'm fighting it. His hand slowly slid down from the wall, brushing her arm in a barely there touch that sent a shiver through her. Her breath caught. Garvin leaned even closer until his lips hovered at her ear. You make me lose control. Rose's heart pounded. Is that bad? His chest rose and fell against hers, slow and heavy. For me? His voice dropped into a dangerous whisper. It could ruin everything. Her voice was barely a breath. Then don't fight it. For a single moment, a heartbeat suspended in time, she felt him lean into her. His nose skimmed her cheek, tracing the path her tears had left. Rose. His voice cracked. If I let myself touch you, I won't stop. The night swirled around them, charged and alive. Her pulse roared in her ears. I don't understand, she whispered. Why do you pull me close just to push me away? He shut his eyes, jaw flexing a man losing a war against instinct. Because fate doesn't control me. He pushed off the wall and stepped back, breaking the moment with violent restraint. Rose felt the loss like a physical wound. Garvin ran a hand through his hair, pacing once, twice, frustrated by something he couldn't fight. You don't know what you're asking for, he said, voice tight. You don't know what I am. Rose lifted her chin, just enough courage to ask, so show me. Those 3 words shattered him. His wolf surged against his control, mate. Claim. Take. Garvin's eyes flashed silver. He took one last step toward her, then froze. Not because he didn't want her, because wanting her terrified him. Chapter 6. Cold. That was the first sensation Rose became aware of. Not the air, though the night wind cut through her thin clothes like knives, but a chilling hollowness that spread from her chest outward, numbing everything in its path. The rejection still echoed inside her skull, Garvin's voice replaying over and over like a cruel punishment. I don't want you. Her mate, her destined partner, her miracle after years of silence. And he had looked at her like she was a mistake. Rose staggered backward until her spine met the rough bark of a tree. Her hands trembled violently, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The trees blurred as tears flooded her eyes, hot and relentless. I wasn't enough, she whispered to the empty forest. Her voice cracked, small and broken. The wind didn't answer. The moon goddess didn't answer. Only her own shame answered in echoes. Her knees gave out. She sank into the dirt, clutching her chest as if she could physically hold herself together. It didn't help. The rejection tore through her bond like shattered glass, slicing deeper than any physical wound. She felt it like invisible threads snapping one by one. Every snap sent a pulse of agony through her veins. No, 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 please, don't leave me like this. Her voice dissolved into a sob. She curled forward, forehead to the ground, fingers digging into fallen leaves. Her breathing came in ragged gasps, too fast, too shallow. Panic burned through her bloodstream. She had been ignored her entire life. Overlooked. Pathetic. But this was the first time someone ripped away something she never had the chance to hold. Her vision darkened around the edges. You were never meant for anything great. You're weak. You're nothing. Those were the voices of her past, the mocking whispers of pack members, elders, even her own father. They all blended together until she couldn't tell whose voice belonged to who. Shame pressed against her ribs, suffocating her. Her throat burned as she screamed, not words, just pain. And something answered. A whisper slid through her mind, soft but ancient. Enough. Rose froze. It wasn't her thought. A sudden pulse shot through her chest, sharp and electric. It rippled outward, rattling her bones. She gasped as heat bloomed beneath her skin, spreading from her heart to her fingertips like wildfire. Her tears stopped mid-fall. Her vision sharpened. She lifted her head. The world around her changed. The shadows of the forest were no longer terrifying. She could hear everything, every leaf rustling, every insect shifting. She even heard her own heartbeat, strong despite her pain. Her breath trembled. What? What's happening to me? Her fingers clawed at the earth for stability. A deep rumble vibrated through her mind, low, protective, powerful. Stand? Rose's muscles moved before she could think. She pushed herself off the ground, barely recognizing her own strength. She stood with her spine straightened, chest rising with a new kind of breath. Her pain didn't vanish, but something began to grow in its place. Resolve. Wrath. Power. A faint glow flickered at the edge of her vision. She blinked. A soft, luminescent silver light shimmered in her irises, brief, subtle, then gone. The glow returned a heartbeat later, brighter this time, swirling like liquid moonlight. Rose gasped. Her wolf, the one who had been silent, hiding, dormant her entire life, was finally waking. Inside her mind, a voice fierce and unmistakably female growled with newfound life. We are not weak. Warmth flooded Rose's veins, chasing away the cold torment. Her heartbeat steadied, beating with a strength she had never felt before. Energy surged beneath her skin, electric, alive. Rose lifted her chin. For the first time ever, the forest wasn't swallowing her. She was claiming it. She wiped the tears from her cheeks, her breathing steadying. He rejected her. Fine. She would rise without him. Because something deep inside Rose had just awakened. And the world had no idea what was coming. Hazel arrived first. Her heels snapped twigs as she stormed into the clearing, Magnus right behind her. Hazel's nose wrinkled when she saw Rose standing alone, shoulders squared, moonlight bathing her like a divine spotlight. "What the hell are you doing here, mutt?" Hazel spat, her voice dripping with the entitlement of someone who had never been told no in her life. Rose didn't reply. Her face was expressionless, too calm, too still. Magnus frowned, sniffing the air. His brows snapped together. Something's off. Rose didn't flinch as they approached. She barely registered them. She was still listening to the pulse beneath her skin, the steady thrum of a wolf whose presence flooded her veins like sacred fire. Garvin emerged from the shadows last. His eyes locked onto her immediately. The moon reflected off Rose's irises, catching the faint thread of silver that glimmered within them. He froze mid-step. No, that wasn't possible. Rose had always been a wolfless nobody, a weak pack member, a background shadow. But now, the air around her shifted, pressing outward like a force of nature, expanding its territory. Magnus's posture stiffened. Hazel's smirk faltered. Garvin's heartbeat kicked up. He could feel it, something ancient, unclaimed, dangerous. Magnus swallowed. "Alpha, do you feel that?" Garvin didn't respond. Rose finally looked up at them, and when she did, her eyes flashed silver. Hazel stumbled back a step before catching herself. Her shock lasted a breath too long, then her face twisted in fury. She marched forward until she stood right in front of Rose. "You think that look makes you special?" Hazel hissed, voice sharp and venomous. "Garvin rejected you. You're nothing." Rose didn't respond. Silence equals contempt. Hazel's nostrils flared. Rage boiled over. She lifted her hand, fully intent on slapping Rose across the face. But Hazel's palm never landed. Rose caught her wrist mid-air. Effortless. Clean. Unshaken. Hazel gasped, eyes flying wide. Her hand didn't just stop, she couldn't move it. Rose's fingers wrapped around her wrist like steel, unyielding, cold. A power so intense pulsed beneath Rose's skin that Hazel felt it like static electricity crawling up her arm. "Let go," Hazel stammered, her confident voice replaced with panic. Rose's voice was low, calm, but laced with a threat Hazel had never heard from her before. "No." Magnus stared, mouth open. Garvin's breath stalled. "Rose?" But Rose wasn't looking at him. She was staring Hazel down without blinking, silver flickering in her eyes like firelight dancing on metal. Hazel tried to yank her hand free. She couldn't. Rose wasn't holding her. Rose was restraining her. Hazel trembled. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet shuddered. Leaves trembled. The air crackled like lightning searching for a conductor. Magnus took a step back, instinctive fear rising from deep within his wolf. "Alpha, we need to—" "Don't." Garvin's voice was hushed. "Don't touch her." He couldn't look away. Rose released Hazel's wrist. Hazel stumbled backward, clutching her arm, her face pale. You're not normal," she whispered. The silver in Rose's eyes flashed again brighter this time, pulsating like a heartbeat. Rose stood taller, her voice calm and steady. "Now you finally understand." Garvin's expression shattered shock, disbelief, attraction, fear, all warping into one emotion he didn't know how to name. Rose turned her back to them and walked away, not weak, not broken, but powerful. For the first time, Garvin didn't see the invisible girl. He saw the threat. And somewhere inside him, deep beneath his pride and fear, a truth formed like a whisper. The pack just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Chapter 7. Rose woke up the next morning with a throbbing headache. Her whole body ached, as if she'd run for miles. Her wolf, the powerful, awakening presence inside her, remained silent, but Rose could still feel her. A faint warmth beneath her skin. A sense that she was not alone. She sat on the edge of her small, worn mattress, fingers digging into the thin blanket. Last night replayed in her mind on a brutal loop. Garvin rejecting her. The pain. The silver glow. Stopping Hazel's slap mid-air without effort. It didn't feel real. But the fear in Hazel's eyes last night? The shock in Alpha Magnus's voice? That was real. A soft whisper brushed through her mind, the first communication from the wolf inside her. "We are not weak." Rose inhaled sharply. Before she could respond, a loud banging rattled her door. "Open up!" It wasn't a request. Rose stood and opened it to find Gamma Magnus's enforcer, with 2 warriors behind him. Their expressions were tight, hostile. "You're to report to the Alpha's office," Lionel said. Rose swallowed. "Why?" Lionel's eyes narrowed as if she were playing dumb. Because you revealed an unregistered wolf ability on pack territory. The words made her stomach drop. I didn't mean... Move, the Gamma snarled. As they escorted her through the pack house, warriors stopped talking whenever she passed. Whispers rose behind her. Did you hear what she did? She stopped Hazel's hand mid-air. Her eyes glowed. That's not normal. What if she's dangerous? Rose kept her chin low, cheeks burning. Fear tasted worse than humiliation. Inside Magnus's office, Hazel lounged in a chair like a satisfied queen, Garvin standing stiffly near the window, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Magnus spoke first, voice controlled but icy. Explain what happened. Rose kept her gaze low. I don't know. Magnus slammed his hand on the desk. Don't lie to me. Wolves don't just appear out of nowhere. Hazel crossed her arms. She's a freak, Dad. An Omega with whatever that was. Rose wanted to curl into herself, but something inside her wolf wouldn't let her. Stand tall. She lifted her chin. My wolf awakened. Magnus scoffed. Hazel rolled her eyes. Garvin stiffened. Magnus leaned back. Impossible. Omegas don't awaken wolves at 18, and certainly not that. Rose swallowed. I can't control what's happening. Hazel stood, leaning forward with venom. Then she's a threat. Rose flinched. Garvin snapped. Hazel, enough. Hazel froze, shocked that he defended Rose even minimally. Magnus tapped his desk thoughtfully. There are ancient bloodlines, moon-blessed wolves. Wolves with powers the rest of us don't have. Garvin turned sharply. Those are myths. Not myths, Magnus said grimly. Prophecies. Hazel scoffed. You're not seriously saying she could be part of that? Magnus's expression darkened. If she is, then Rose could challenge anyone in this pack, even me. The room shifted. Hazel's face contorted with rage. Garvin stared at Rose, really stared for the first time without hatred or confusion, but caution. Rose couldn't breathe. I don't want power, she whispered. Magnus leaned forward, eyes cold. But you have it, and power is dangerous. Garvin exhaled sharply, stepping closer. Rose, look at me. She did, and the mate bond surged, that invisible thread tugging between them. Garvin's voice softened, surprising even himself. Can you feel her? Your wolf? Rose nodded slowly. Yes. And what does she want? Rose swallowed, feeling her wolf's answer ripple through her. To survive. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe freedom? Hazel slammed her hand on the desk. Enough. She's manipulating you. Magnus stood, finalizing his decision. Until we understand what she is, Rose is restricted to servant duties and confined to the Omega wing. Guards will escort her at all times. Rose stiffened. Garvin looked furious. You can't cage her like an animal. Magnus's gaze sharpened. Watch me. Hazel smirked in triumph. Rose felt her wolf surge in anger, the first hint of a fierce, protective power. We will not remain caged. But for now, Rose bowed her head slowly. Yes, Alpha. Garvin's eyes locked onto hers. He felt it. The moment she stopped being prey. The door slammed behind Rose as guards escorted her out, leaving Hazel, Magnus, and Garvin in the Alpha's office. But Garvin didn't move. He stared at the door she'd just disappeared behind. The thread that invisible mate bond pulled tight, burning through his chest. Hazel noticed. Oh, please, she snapped. Don't tell me you're actually affected by her little magic trick. Garvin didn't answer. Because yes, he was affected. More than affected. He was shaken. Magnus crossed the room to an old steel cabinet. One Rose had never seen opened before. He pulled out something wrapped in cloth, the fabric thick and faded with age. Hazel leaned forward, curious. "What is that?" Magnus unwrapped it slowly. A scroll. Ancient parchment, edges yellowed and cracked. Garvin stiffened. "You think this is connected?" Magnus lowered his voice. This prophecy was passed down from the first Alpha King. No one living has seen an awakening like what she displayed. Only a moon-blessed wolf can channel power before their first shift. Hazel blinked, confused. "What's a moon-blessed?" Magnus gave her a cold, annoyed look. She clearly never cared about pack history. Garvin answered instead. Moon-blessed wolves were rare. They carried abilities gifted by the moon goddess power to heal, to see beyond, or, he hesitated, eyes darkening, to destroy. Magnus nodded and unfurled the scroll. The parchment read, "When the silver-eyed wolf rises from the lowest dust, the balance of the packs will shift. Luna by destiny, Queen by strength." Hazel paled. That can't be talking about her." "She stopped you mid-slap," Garvin said quietly, "without even shifting." Hazel's face twisted. "She humiliated me." "No," Magnus corrected coldly. "She overpowered you." Hazel turned to Garvin, voice sharp and desperate. "You're not actually considering this prophecy, are you? She's an Omega. Garbage. She can't be." Garvin cut her off. "I don't know what she is." But he did. Deep down, he knew. When Rose stopped Hazel's hand, Garvin had felt the surge of power through the mate bond electricity snapping through his veins like lightning. Something ancient. Something undeniable. And when Rose looked at him, eyes glowing silver, he had felt fear. Magnus rolled the scroll back, face unreadable. If she is moon-blessed, the packs will fight over her. Wars have been started for less. For now, we keep her contained. Hazel smirked, satisfied. Garvin turned on Magnus, voice low with warning. "You can't cage fate." Magnus raised a brow. "Watch me." In the Omega quarters, Rose sat on her narrow cot, hugging her knees. 2 guards stood outside her door. She felt watched, trapped, worth less than dirt. Then, her wolf stirred. Soft at first, then stronger. "You are not theirs to control." Rose closed her eyes as warmth spread through her chest. Her eyes tingled, she could feel them shifting silver. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of the power. She was the power. On the terrace, later that night, Garvin stood alone, staring at the moonlit courtyard, the same spot where he had tried to fight the mate bond days ago. But it fought back. He closed his eyes, whispering to the night. "I rejected her. Why can't I sever the bond?" Damien stepped onto the terrace, joining him silently. Garvin didn't look at him. "Damien, what if rejecting her was a mistake?" Damien lifted a brow. "You're only asking because you're scared the prophecy might be true." Garvin didn't deny it. Because the truth was clawing at him from inside. He didn't reject Rose because she was weak. He rejected her because she could break him. Damien exhaled slowly. "You felt it too, didn't you, when her power surged?" Garvin finally spoke. "I didn't feel power." He swallowed hard. "I felt destiny." Back in her room, Rose trembled as her wolf whispered with fierce certainty, "You will not remain invisible." Her silver eyes glowed in the dark. And, somewhere deep in the pack house, Garvin's wolf whispered back, "Mater." Chapter 8. The morning sun rose over the pack house. But Rose didn't feel warmth. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, the bond, that painful, electric pull toward Garvin vibrated inside her like an echo that refused to fade. 2 guards stood outside her door. A reminder she wasn't free. A reminder she was feared. Rose pushed herself off the small cot and walked toward the tiny bathroom sink. Her reflection stared back at her swollen eyes, tear-stained cheeks, hair tangled from tossing and turning. But her gaze was different. Under the exhaustion, a silver shimmer pulsed. Like moonlight trapped in her irises. She flinched, stepping closer. "What's happening to me?" A voice, not her own, not external, but inside answered, "You are awakening." Her breath hitched. "My wolf." The voice soft, powerful, ancient, hummed. "We are not Omega. We were never Omega." Heat spread under Rose's skin, a warm pulse radiating outward from her chest. It wasn't pain, it was power. For the first time in her life, Rose didn't feel small. Outside in the hallway, one guard shifted uncomfortably. "Did you feel that?" The other nodded. Like a surge. A cold rush of wind swept down the corridor. Then a pulse. Like the air itself bowed. The locks on Rose's door rattled metal, trembling, bolts shaking in their slots. The guards stepped back. What the hell? With a clang, the lock snapped open. The door didn't swing, it flew open. The guards stumbled backward, hands going to their radios. Rose stepped out, head high, shoulders straight, her eyes unmistakably silvery. What did you do?" one stammered. Rose blinked, confused. "I didn't touch anything." And she truly hadn't. The power simply obeyed her. "I just needed air." The guards exchanged a panic-stricken look. "We're supposed to keep you inside." They reached for her arms, not harshly, but instinctively. The moment their hands touched her, the power burst. Wind exploded outward from her skin, shoving both men back as if hit by invisible force. They slammed against the wall, not injured, but wide-eyed and terrified. Rose gasped, staring at her hands. "I didn't mean to, I didn't. I protect what is mine." Her wolf's voice echoed. Before Rose could run or explain, a deep voice cut through the hall. "Enough." Everyone froze. Garvin. He stood at the end of the corridor, black shirt rolled at the forearms, silver eyes dark with something fierce and unreadable. He didn't walk toward her. He approached. Slow, controlled, predator, smooth. The guards bowed. Garvin ignored them. His attention was locked on Rose, her wild breathing, her glowing eyes, her trembling hands. He reached her. Close enough that the mate bond snapped taut between them so intense, Rose gripped the wall just to stay upright. "What did you do?" she whispered. Garvin's jaw clenched. "I didn't do anything. You put me in a cell. I put you somewhere safe." "You mean contained?" she shot back. Garvin didn't deny it. He finally spoke, voice low. "When you open a locked steel door without touching it, Rose, containment becomes a necessity." Her heart sank. "So I'm a threat now." Garvin stepped closer, too close. Close enough, she could feel the heat of him and smell that intoxicating forest storm scent that made her weak. "A threat?" he whispered. "No, but you are unpredictable." Rose swallowed. And unpredictable things get locked away. He flinched. That hit deeper than she intended. He reached out slowly, as if his hand moved against his will, fingers lifting toward her cheek. Her breath caught. Her wolf pushed forward. "Touch us." His thumb brushed her skin. Rose trembled. The mate bond fled lightning, heat, need. It was overwhelming. Garvin inhaled sharply, silver eyes going molten. But then, He pulled back. All warmth vanished. The Alpha wants to test you, he said, voice suddenly cold. Test me? Rose repeated, heart dropping. Garvin nodded once. To determine what you are. Rose lifted her chin. I already know what I am. And what is that? She didn't blink. Not yours. The words hit him like a blow. Garvin's eyes flickered wounded fury and something else he refused to name before he stepped back, putting distance between them. Follow me, he said, cold and alpha sharp. We need answers. He turned and began walking. Rose stood frozen for a beat, feeling her wolf raise her chin. Answers will lead to destiny. She followed him, and the guards followed her, but not to contain her, to protect everyone else, because the Luna they once mocked was awakening. The Elder Chamber was ancient, older than any pack member alive. Carved stone walls, moon symbols, lit torches that gave off a silver-blue flame instead of orange. Rose shivered as she stepped inside. Garvin walked ahead of her, shoulders tense, fists tucked behind his back, a contradiction of raw power and restless frustration. Beater Damien stood near the doorway, arms crossed, eyeing Rose, not with suspicion, but with something like awe. Elder Rain waited at the altar, draped in ceremonial grey robes. His long hair was silver-white, and his eyes were milky, yet Rose felt him seeing her more than anyone ever had. The moment Rose crossed the threshold, every torch in the room flared brighter. The Elder inhaled sharply. Moonlight recognizes her. Garvin stiffened. Rose blinked. I don't understand. Elder Rain stepped closer, circling her slowly, like a scholar studying a rare, dangerous artifact. You opened a steel door with will alone, he murmured. The power radiating from you. I have felt it only once before. Garvin's voice was tight. Who? Rain stopped in front of Rose. Your mother. Rose went still. The air left her lungs. My mother was an Omega, she whispered. Rain's laugh was soft, sad. No, child, that was the lie they fed you. Hazel and Alpha Magnus had always sneered those words at her. Omega, weak, worthless. Rose held her breath. Rain placed his palm near her cheek, not touching, but close enough she felt a ripple of heat along her skin. Symbols carved into the altar began to glow. You are the daughter of a Luna, Rain murmured, born from the moon-blessed bloodline, the first in over a century. Garvin froze. Damien swore under his breath. Rose felt numb. Moon? Blessed? That can't be right, she whispered. I can't even shift. Rain's voice deepened with warning. That is because your wolf was bound, sealed by someone who feared what you would become. Rose's heart hammered. Bound? Sealed? Garvin's jaw flexed. Who would do that? Before Rain could speak, a voice echoed behind them. I would. Rose turned. Hazel stood in the entrance, arms crossed, lips curled in victory. Alpha Magnus hovered behind her, expression carved from stone. Hazel smirked at Rose. Surprise, sister. Rose flinched. She always hated that word sister, it felt like poison. Hazel continued, stepping closer with venom-coated confidence. Your mother was the rightful Luna, yes, and when she died, Father made sure no one in this pack ever knew that worthless little you carried her blood. Rose felt the floor tilt. You sealed my wolf. Magnus spoke then, voice cold and unapologetic. You were dangerous by birth. My daughter, he motioned toward Hazel, pride swelling, was chosen by me to be Luna, not you. Hazel leaned toward Rose, voice a whisper meant to cut flesh. You should thank us. Without the seal, you'd have shifted at 13 and died from the power. You were too weak to handle it. Rose's voice trembled. So, instead, you made me live like a slave. Hazel shrugged, unbothered. Better a slave than a threat. The torches flickered. Garvin stepped forward not to defend Rose, but because the bond pulled him. Why hide this from the council? He demanded. Magnus lifted his chin. Because if the council learned Rose was moon-blessed, the throne would demand her. Damien muttered, stunned. Moon-blessed Lunas. They don't just support a kingdom, they rule beside the Alpha King. Hazel spun toward Garvin, voice dripping desperation. She's nothing. She's a fat, trembling Omega who can't even look people in the eye. Hazel pointed at Rose like she was filth. She's unworthy of you. The words sliced into Rose. But Garvin barely reacted to Hazel. His eyes were pinned on Rose, on the glow in her irises, on the power he no longer could deny. Finally, he spoke, voice low and dangerous. Blood doesn't decide worth. Hazel's face crumpled. Magnus stiffened. Rain lifted a trembling hand, eyes wide with prophetic fear. The moon has chosen Rose. If she completes the awakening, she will be stronger than any alpha alive. The room vibrated with power. Rose felt it in her bones, a pulse, a calling, destiny curling inside her ribcage. Magnus spoke sharply. We are done here. Hazel is still the pack's future, Luna. Garvin moved before anyone could blink, stepping into Magnus's space, voice lethal. You don't choose a Luna, Alpha Magnus. Fate does. The torches blazed silver-white, blinding. Magnus swallowed. Hazel's voice broke into a scream. This isn't fair. Rain thundered. Destiny is not fair. Destiny chooses strength. Hazel lunged at Rose. Not to slap. To kill. But Rose didn't move. She didn't flinch. Power poured through her veins, her wolf rising like a moonlit storm. When Hazel struck, her wrist froze mid-air, suspended by force alone. Hazel's eyes went wide. What is this? Let go of me! Rose's voice was calm, quiet, deadly. No. Magnus reached for Hazel. Garvin grabbed him, shoving him back against the altar. The elder's voice shook. The Luna has awakened. Rose released Hazel, who stumbled to the floor, terror swallowing her pride. Everyone looked at Rose with fear. Except Garvin. He looked at her with something else. Awe. Conflict. Possession. Rose met his gaze with new steadiness. I am done being unseen. The hallway was quiet after the confrontation. Everyone had left, except Rose. She stood alone, hugging her arms around herself as the last echoes of Magnus's outrage faded down the corridor. The truth of her bloodline still rang in her ears. She wasn't nobody. She wasn't weak. Something inside her had awakened. But all Rose felt was tired. She walked toward the back door of the pack house, needing air, needing space, needing distance from the chaos her existence had caused. Behind her, footsteps. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. She knew it was him. Garvin stopped several steps away, keeping a distance like the bond itself terrified him. Rose. His voice was rough, conflicted. She swallowed. You don't have to say anything. Garvin exhaled shakily, as if every breath hurt. I shouldn't have reacted the way I did. You rejected me, she said quietly. That's not something you accidentally do. Silence stretched between them, heavy, uncomfortable, real. Garvin didn't move closer. Rose didn't look back. Whatever destiny had planned, neither of them were ready for it. Rose pushed open the door, cool night air brushing her face. She whispered, not to him but to herself, "It is over." And she stepped outside, leaving Garvin standing behind her. with the bond he didn't want, and the girl he couldn't forget. And that was only the beginning. Rose has awakened something the pack never expected, a power tied to a forgotten bloodline, and to a mate who refuses to accept her. Garvin may have walked away, but destiny hasn't. Part 2. The Bullied Luna. Coming next. If you enjoyed Part 1 of this novel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what happens next. Your support helps the story continue. Part 2 is on the way. Stay tuned.